That's right. You are about to go on a ride around the automotive industry. Hello, everyone. It's Fred Staub, and it is Les Jackson, and
Yes, indeed.
we are ready to go. We've got a great 2 hours of, well, great automotive information for you. And if you're thinking about buying a car or just trying to decide which one to get, well, hopefully we can clear that up. Right, Les?
That's right. We can tell you which ones not to get,
Yeah. And
which is very few, by the way.
there's been kind of an industry problem, and it involves quality. And JD Power's initial quality study is out, and the results are really not that good.
No, honestly, we caught us off guard. We expected better. But speaking of better, though, those of you that love Mazda rotary engines, raise your hand.
Okay.
Mazda is bringing back a big part of its past. We'll explain what they're doing, what size the rotary is, and so on.
Yeah. That was the industry. Remember that there was going to be a triple rotor Corvette, all kinds of
Right.
things like
Yeah.
that. Yeah. And are Hyundai and Kia getting an electric pickup ready to compete with the likes of the Ford Lightning? Well, I think so.
You better. And why is the Nissan Z delayed? Well, we'll tell you all the reasons.
Yeah, and we'll have an at the wheel review, or you'll have an at the wheel review of the Volkswagen GTI. Interesting story this week. We're also going to cover they regret doing what they did to the interior, taking away the buttons, and that
Yeah.
a lot of the controls are not backlit. And
Well, yes. In fact, I have a few that I'll mention on the one I tested.
yeah,
But it's a lot of fun to drive with.
other than that, yes,
Yeah.
it's a lot of fun to drive.
Just a hoot.
Yeah. Well, all that and more coming up on Cruise Control, your on air automotive magazine with Fred Staub and Les Jackson. Interesting thing that has tripped up a lot of people on this initial quality study, Les, is door handles. And have you noticed door handles are getting a lot of attention lately on the cars we test?
That's true. Um, yeah, there are some things that aren't quite right about a lot of brand new vehicles that we, know were solved 20 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll talk about that. Also, infotainment is a big one.
Yeah.
People, I even have trouble with a lot of press cars um, connecting to Bluetooth, which you shouldn't, and sometimes it's very difficult. So we'll talk about that coming up. The JD Power initial quality study, great information if you're planning on buying a new vehicle, and well, we're going to give it to you right after the break. So stay tuned to Cruise Control, your on-air auto. And welcome back to Cruise Control, your on air automotive magazine. Les, we were just getting into the JD Power Initial Quality
Yep.
Index study.
Yep. Or lack thereof, as you said.
Although Dodge did very well, and among the premium brands closely related to Dodge, Alfa Romeo, right?
Which is a very pleasant surprise. You know, to be frank, Alpha's never been known for high quality,
No,
but there you are.
yeah,
They're doing the job right.
yeah, and they were the highest score, followed by Porsche, which I'm sure these are brands that people wait for all their life to buy.
That's right. That's right.
Cadillac and GM actually got 7 of the top awards, followed by Hyundai, Toyota, Chevrolet, and Kia received the most segment awards, 4.
Which is, what's nice about that is that they're all consistent.
Yeah,
every year they're kind of the same ones, which is important. You don't have to be the best, but to be consistent is great.
Now, what's interesting are the vehicles that got the awards, top awards: Buick Encore GX, Cadillac
Nice.
Escalade, Cadillac XT6, Chevrolet Camaro,
Well,
Chevrolet Corvette. I mean, there some
yeah,
are aspirational, and then some are just bread and butter vehicles. Chevrolet Equinox and Chevrolet Tahoe, kind of bread and butter,
right.
but
Long time products,
yeah. Hyundai's highest models, you and I would agree on this: Genesis G80.
of course. Um,
Interestingly, the Kia Carnival.
Now, I have not as yet tested a Carnival.
It's just a minivan.
Um, the Forte, again, old product, well entrenched.
Yeah, one of the best cars, actually. If it was voted one of the best cars for new drivers.
Yeah, yeah.
And then
And
Kia Stinger and Kia Rio. That's interesting.
say goodbye to the Stinger.
Yeah. Although it might be coming back, they say, as a
Well,
600
yeah, that's right.
horsepower electric vehicle. So we'll see. And then over at Toyota, the Lexus GX, the Lexus IS, Toyota Camry, and Toyota 4Runner.
No surprise.
Yeah. And then this is very interesting. For Nissan, the highest ranking overall was the Nissan Maxima.
A car no one thinks about, and yet they're just very, very good.
Here's my thought on this. I think eventually sedans will come back again, as everything does, and then manufacturers will say, "Oh, we have no sedans." I mean, there was a article
Yeah,
floating around about Ford bringing back the Taurus, right? And it was just clickbait, really. But what it was is they were bringing it back for Saudi Arabia, and I wish we could get the Taurus because they redid it. They have sort of like Mustang taillights on it, and it looks really good.
yeah. But it's gone.
Yeah, you have to drive a large SUV. That's what you're required to do, whether you want it
Uh,
or not.
yeah. If you don't, you're formally ostracized.
That's right. Nissan Murano, too, another vehicle that's been around for a long time.
And it's a good one, and it's stylish. In fact, it's one of the few stylish SUVs.
Yeah, most of them look pretty much the same with a
Yeah.
little bit different trim. Um, so at the bottom, with the most problems, which is interesting, problems per 100 vehicles. Can you guess? Well, it wasn't who you, it the one you could guess is at the
Of
bottom,
course,
but not
of
all the way
course.
at the bottom.
Our favorite little brand, Tesla, but there's only one that has a lower, and by the way, that's a bar that's hard to get over.
Yeah.
Is the Polestar? I don't understand what's going on with the Polestar. That's a Volvo product, although Volvos themselves are only one step higher in ranking than Tesla.
Yeah.
I don't understand that.
Well, the other thing too is Chrysler, Dodge did so well, and
Right.
Chrysler is not doing well. They are right down there with Volvo at 250 problems per 100 vehicles.
Yeah. And then right just beating them by one is Volkswagen, which again, and Audi. You just think they would be higher on the scale.
Yeah, you do. You would think they would be higher in the scale. And the study average was about 192 problems per 100 vehicles. So
Right. So
basically,
roughly
most had about a little
two
under two
problems per
problems. Yeah.
yeah per vehicle.
Yeah. Now, what are these problems? They're not like, okay, you need a new engine block, but they are probably annoying things, maybe a software update, something like that, right?
Yeah. Usually it's not something mechanical. It's probably infotainment in all of them. Um, and you know, it's not something that would prevent the vehicle from getting from point A to point B, but something that would annoy the owner.
Yeah. Well, especially if they spent 50, $60,000 on it, and it's
Yeah,
like, oh, you've had that 2 weeks, and it has to head back to the
yeah.
dealer. That
What
is,
you don't want the dealer to say is, "Oh, well, they all do that."
yeah, or yeah, that's normal. That's within spec.
That's right.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So interesting study from the folks over at JD Power. Let's talk about the rotary return now. There is a vehicle that Mazda is bringing back or bringing into the fleet in Europe, and it is called the MX-30 REV, and it's a small
Right.
crossover. Um, got the two-tone paint, but this is going to have a 1.3 liter twin rotor engine. Oh, well, I'm sorry, that's the last one they built back in
No, that
20,
was the
20
RX-8.
yeah,
Yeah.
2012. RX-8 was a kind of a fun car.
I really like the RX-8. By the way, because many people aren't familiar with rotaries. I have to bring up
The rotor.
the rotor. This is what it looks like. This is it. The piston, the crankshaft. It's all there.
Can you spin it at 10,000 RPM right
Uh,
now?
I can spin it at 1 RPM. This thing weighs about 40 pounds. By the
That's a
way,
lot to spin, actually.
yeah.
Well, I take that back. It's the MX-30R is going to have an 830cc rotor, and it's going to be paired with an electric motor that puts out 168 horsepower. It's actually part of the motor. It's like it's
Right.
right sits right in front of it, and that is all that's going to do is generate electricity.
Exactly. Which makes perfect sense. It's a great system. The Chevy Volt was like that.
And it's going to run. The good thing is it can run at a continuous RPM for a long time. That's a
And
great.
that's the beauty of a rotary engine. Um, it's actually, gasoline engines in general are most efficient at about 2,700 RPM.
Yeah. So, will we see this in the U.S.? I think
Hmm.
so. It's going to be coming to Europe in the fall, but I think we will see this in the U.S. They certainly need more higher MPG vehicles in their fleet here. Wouldn't you agree?
I do. They'll have to clean the engine's emissions up, but I'm sure they could do that with exhaust after treatment.
And right now they have an electric vehicle, but it only gets 100 miles of range, which is
That's right.
really not competitive in today's world.
It's yeah, it doesn't seem like a serious player. I mean, it is, but it's
Talk about the RX-8. That was a fun vehicle. I like that. It had the little
I
door, flip out
yeah,
doors. This MX-30 is going to have that. I thought it was a cool sports car. I like driving it.
it was so beautifully 50-50 weight distribution. It handled great. It was quiet.
Yeah, cool
I
stuff.
really liked it.
All right. Well, we hope you are enjoying Cruise Control so far. Stick around. We've got plenty more coming up. Hyundai and Kia getting into the electric pickup truck market. We'll tell you about it when we come back on Cruise Control.
And welcome back to Cruise Control. Well, guess what, folks? If you can't get a Ford Lightning, um, because
You
you
can't
can't
get
get
a
one,
Ford Lightning. Yeah.
that's right. But you want one, and trust me, you do. We've driven these things, and they are impressive. And you got to make sure you don't get any friendly certificates from the police.
They're fast.
They're very fast, and looks like Hyundai and Kia are noticing this, like
Sure.
they wouldn't have,
Mm-hmm.
and the word is they're going to do electric pickups, and you know it's got to be true, and you know they'll be good.
Yeah.
Big question is, what'll they cost? When will they be around?
I bet
Uh,
they will cost less and have more range and more things in them.
I think you're right. I think the names will be interesting.
Kia in other parts of the country has the Tasman, which sounds a
Right.
bit Australian to me. I don't know,
It
like 10.
sounds Australian. I I don't know why, Fred, but I had an epiphany
Okay.
uh, about this, and I actually believe, and I don't know why I believe it, that either Hyundai or Kia will call one of their trucks the Pulse.
Okay. That's
It
not a
just
bad
seemed to,
it's not
yeah,
a bad name. That
no,
no, I think that's pretty good. Um, would build both of these on the current eGMP platform. It's the same one that will underpin the some of their other offerings. And I think they'll do it. I mean, we have some renderings of this which we can't share, but it looks great, and I don't see why they wouldn't do it. I mean, there's a
I
demand
don't
for
either.
this. People can't get these things, so I think they will do it for sure. And they want to play in the truck market, and this is kind of like a clean sheet to play in the truck market, you know?
That's right. Nobody has a reputation, a long-term reputation in electric trucks.
Right. And it's not like you're going to say, oh, well, you got to build trucks. You got to build quarter ton, half ton, 3/4 ton. They don't have to do that. They don't have to build super duty trucks with diesel engines. They're going to just build this electric vehicle. And it's somewhere between a car and a truck, but who knows what they'll come up with. But I think it will be something good, don't you?
I do, and I think I think it will be very impressive looking. I'm looking at the rendering that we can't talk
Share.
about, but
Yeah.
but I think it'll be sort of futuristic, um, and I think people will really gravitate toward it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we will see. Well, one thing they haven't gravitated towards is taking away the buttons inside vehicles, going with sliders, haptic
Right.
controls. And VW has had a problem with this. And interesting article comes from Autocar. Uh, that says the CEO, Thomas Schaefer, recently told Autocar that he went as far as saying that these frustrating interiors definitely did a lot of damage among loyal customers. And he said VW's newest products are currently filled with touch sensitive buttons and sliders that are sometimes difficult to operate and feel cheap.
You know, um, I agree with him. You and I have tested some of these that uh, volume switches on radios or a slider on the touch screen. Come on,
Yeah.
it's distracting and it's just kind of silly.
Well, I'm anxious for your review of the Volkswagen GTI because to me this was the cause celeb of we need to return to buttons in the
Yep.
in the interior, and he even mentioned that going from the Mark 7 to the Mark 8, that he feels they went too far, and I agree, and also a lot of the buttons are not lit. So I don't. Yeah, it was like I
That's
got in it
true.
at night and I couldn't turn the headlights on. It's like where is everything? So I personally was disappointed with that interior, and I thought it would be a no go for me to buy something like that. But I'm looking forward to your review, and apparently people's cries have been heard, right?
Well, that's right. People across the board, not just Volkswagen, but there's resistance forming
Well, you can't.
in the.
It's dangerous. You can't if you
It
can't
is. It is.
make a simple fan speed change
Yeah.
while going down the road, and you're like, oh, you have to do 3 or 4 presses to do that. That's wrong, right?
Well, and it's whatever happened to ergonomics? Remember,
Yeah,
everything you study, that's an actual science, and
yeah,
humans do this.
hmm
They don't do this.
yeah,
Well, I'm not.
yeah. Oh, and
You
they
know,
don't want to do. I found in the GTI you had to do 2 or 3 buttons pushes to get anything.
yeah. That's certainly my main complaint about the GTI.
Yeah. Well, the first they're going to redesign all Volkswagen interiors, and it's interesting. The next generation 2024 VW Tiguan, which believe it or not, I'm going to review the 2023 Tiguan in the
Yep.
second hour, but that will be the first vehicle to get this new design approach where there'll be more knobs and buttons and a little bit easier to use. So I'll be interested to see what that's like. So,
Absolutely. And if you look at any classic car at a car show and you'll just look at the buttons, anyone, even the youngest people will say, "Well, boy, look, that's really convenient. Look at all those buttons. I could just control everything."
hey,
So there
talking
you go.
talking about controlling things, Nissan Z is delayed because of a problem in the plant in Japan. Not supply issues, has to do with paint, Les Jackson. Um,
Boy, that's the most expensive part of building a
yeah,
car plant.
and also the area, the all electric area is delayed, also due to a paint problem. Um, they're
Hmm.
wow, I did not realize this, but in Japan, the new Z, just 435 examples were registered between January and May 2023. Uh, that is crazy, right?
Well, they can't take that. I mean, they've got too many
No.
orders.
Wow. I didn't notice in the US, Nissan delivered just 466 units in the first quarter of 2023. Because I was wondering, I'd like to drive it, and I was like, I wonder if it's in the fleet yet. But
Nope.
can I have one without paint? I'll rattle can it.
They won't tell us what the problem is. I'm just wondering if it's in the prep.
I don't know.
It's the prep that is the secret of a paint job. And if they're running into issues not being able to properly prepare the surface with all the chemicals they use, man, oh man.
I I'm reading here it says it could be due to the newly instituted water-based paint and
Well, but
also an advanced automated paint inspection system that is comprised of 11 robots that inspect paintwork.
hmm,
Uh, but that is just terrible.
yeah, they're detecting dust and debris. Well, dust is pretty easy to work with.
Yeah.
Those are all class 100 clean rooms. We're not even allowed in where they paint the vehicles to watch it.
No.
We can go anywhere else in a factory. It won't let you in there.
No. Wow. But that just blows my mind. Just 466 Nissan
Yeah.
Zs delivered in the first quarter. I've never seen one on the road. Have you?
No. No, not no. It's even the older ones. I haven't seen any on the road.
Yeah.
That's
Just
a
not
shame.
not something that they want. That's something. And the Aria is a beautiful electric car, great range. I'm looking forward to driving that as well. But an unnamed informant added that the factory is looking to improve the solution, but it is so far been a daunting task. I would put some people on that issue, wouldn't you?
I would definitely, yeah, I would
That would be,
devote some real energy.
have a couple of good meetings on that and make sure.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, there you have it. Have you been waiting for your Nissan Z or Area? Let us know in the comments if you have. We'd like to hear because that is amazing that only that amount, 466 cars were delivered
Yeah,
to the
which
U.S.
says they say that if at that rate, it would take 5 years to deliver your ordered car now.
Wow. All right.
And
Well, it's not going to take 5 years for Les to come back with a VW GTI review. So stay tuned to Cruise Control. We'll be right back.
Hey, welcome back to Cruise Control. It is time for an at the wheel review.
Mm-hmm.
And I just happen to have a vehicle to review, which is the 2023 Golf GTI 2-liter turbo Autobahn.
All
Um,
right.
now, it's a, let's face it, Golf GTIs, if you've driven one, you know that they're just a lot of fun to drive. If you haven't driven one, go drive one. They're just, just great. They feel good. They seem to fit like a perfect shoe,
I
and
agree.
they're just they're one of those rare cars that just sort of extends your personality
Yes.
without being a wild person. Okay, this one. Now, I'm not saying that's not necessarily the case with me or with Fred when he's
A
driven one.
wild person.
That's right. Mine is a six-speed manual,
Okay.
so you got all the fun. It's finished in King's Red Metallic
Mm-hmm.
and Titan Black interior, not leather, although they they come standard with leather. I'll explain that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what do you get in this before you get in and turn it on? Here's what it is. It's a 245 horsepower, a four-cylinder, of course, 273 pound-feet of torque,
Mm-hmm.
which is a lot for a car this small. 0 to 60, which I measured, 5.1,
Not bad.
respectable.
Mm-hmm.
And the quarter mile, which I did not measure,
Mm-hmm.
but I just took the data. It's 14.1 seconds, which is
Not bad.
out of the showroom. That's good. Top speed 155. I did not measure that.
Okay. Because you're not a
I I, I
wild
want
man.
I want to keep my license for a little longer.
Okay.
Okay, so once you well, uh, they obviously all the GTIs are front wheel drive. It has a not limited slip differential. You don't get torque steer and all of these things that are possible with more power in the front end. And they have an adaptive chassis control system, which keeps the entire car planted on the road surface until you do something incredibly stupid and just try to drive it past its limits
Mm-hmm.
or your limits. But it just feels like it's going to stay there where you're aiming it. So great brakes, as I'm sure Fred you agree.
Mm-hmm.
19-inch alloy wheels. I asked for 20s out of respect for you.
I thought you'd ask for 22s or
Well,
26s. Make it a donk.
oh, exactly. Yeah, make it one of these. Anyway, 19-inch alloys. They look good. They're nice looking wheels. And as low profile as those tires are, which is like 35 series, the ride is just terrific. It's smooth. When you want it to be smooth, there are different ride controls. There's sport and normal and comfort and eco. What is eco, by the way?
Well, to save fuel. Isn't that why you bought the GTI? To
No,
save
that's
fuel?
not why we drove it.
That's what it is.
Yeah, okay. So it's everything you want. If you want a good, tight, firm ride, track-like ride, you got it. If you want, go in traffic in the local city, hit a few potholes, it's fine. Which is just great. I think that's
plus,
terrific
plus, it's
engineering.
a hatchback. You can use it to pick up groceries.
It's that's the beauty of the Golf. It's kind of a boy racer, um, and a combination of that and a hatchback and an everyday go to work car. They get very good mileage.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and and by the way, what is very good? 27 city, 32 highway, which
That's
is
great.
respectable. We're talking about a lot of power here.
Yeah.
Once you get inside, you got all of the safety goodies that you might expect. The anti-slip regulation, which is just electronic stability control and traction control. Um, of course, electronic brake assist. All of these things that we've talked about on so many different vehicles, they're great. The lane assist, if you want to use it, a lot of people don't like it,
Mm-hmm.
don't feel secure using it. I think it's fine on the highway. Pedestrian and cyclist monitoring, that's, I think, very, very important because they're everywhere and they don't seem to notice that there are cars where they are. Rear traffic alert, which I can't go to the grocery store without that.
Right.
What are you going to do now? When we get to the technology part, we already hinted about it a little earlier in the show, and that's the touch screen. And so many things on the touch screen are the control buttons for stuff, like the volume switch, like the fan control, and these are things that are not helpful, at least in my opinion. I think they're annoying. They require me to stop looking out the windshield and look at the screen so I can go down there and find where I want to hit it, and then I've got to hit it a couple times before it recognizes my finger is on the screen. It's Volkswagen knows that this is a problem. They're going to go back to individual buttons, and we've talked about it before. It's just it's unnecessary,
Right.
and it just kind of complicates things. Okay, it's got a great sound system, Harman Kardon, and of course Sirius XM. Most of these are scheduled with it. Now mine did not have the wonderful multi power assist heated and cooled front seats. Instead, mine was issued with a $1,225 credit
Wow.
because that seat wasn't available
Oh man.
in production, and the plaid inserts were not available. So they gave a cloth seating instead of the leather. It is heated, but it's manually adjustable.
Wow.
Uh, plus the power recline. That's it.
Wow.
What are you going to do? And this was also true of the um, what was the other thing that I mentioned in the beginning of it? There was a $395 credit for something. I'll pick it up later. But overall, that's okay. I don't mind adjusting the seat,
But
but
we're still seeing these things that were left out of cars.
we're seeing them. Yeah, and I don't know if it's chips. I don't know what it is,
Yeah.
but at least they're giving a reasonable credit. So, what does this thing cost? Base price 38,720,
Mm-hmm.
and $1,095 shipping. So, and then with the credit, 38,985 out the door, which is not inexpensive for a small hatchback. But this is a small hatchback that you'll love to drive.
Yeah.
And you can't say more about that. They're just fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool stuff, Les. Well, we appreciate that at the wheel review of the Volkswagen GTI. Fun car for sure. Let's see what the next gen has for an interior. It'll be interesting to see.
Yeah,
Uh, but time for me to say I'm Fred Staub.
I'm Les Jackson.
We'll see you down the road.
Bye.